Alaska is home to significant natural gas reserves, but the state is still facing a looming energy shortage that one more than a century-old federal law has prevented it from solving. Over 70% of the power provided by Alaska's largest electrical grid is generated with natural gas, the large majority of which comes from the Cook Inlet, the state's oldest producing fossil fuel basin. Hilcorp, the main company which extracts that gas, warns that supplies here are dwindling, and it may soon be unable to continue outputting the resource at current levels. The Alaska Department of Natural Resources has projected shortfalls in the Cook Inlet natural gas supply beginning in 2027, and the area is expected to be depleted by the mid-2030s. In response, officials are exploring alternative sources, including the possibility of importing liquefied natural gas from more remote regions of the state to its population centers. But the Merchant Marine Act of 1920, commonly known as the Jones Act, has prevented this plan from moving forward. The legislation mandates that shipping between U.S. ports must be conducted on U.S.-built and flagged vessels. However, there are currently no LNG tankers that meet this requirement, making it impossible for Alaska to transport its own natural gas within the state by sea. No LNG carriers have been made in the U.S. since before 1980, because building them domestically can cost millions of dollars more than doing so abroad. The lack of Jones Act-compliant LNG tankers leaves Alaska dependent on costly workarounds or international imports of energy sources. State Senator Robert Myers has introduced a resolution urging Congress to grant Alaska a waiver from the Jones Act, allowing for the transportation of LNG on foreign-built tankers. Without this waiver, Myers warns the nearly 50% of Alaskans who heat their homes with natural gas could be at risk.
Well, Elon Musk was in Wisconsin for a town hall event this weekend. Alice was just talking about this. There were protesters outside the venue. Wisconsin voters are set to vote this week for the Supreme Court. The results are expected to have a far-reaching impact. Musk promised to give two people, in fact, he did give them $1 million check there at the rally. During the town hall, Musk spoke on his reasons for offering that money.
To say that the reason for the checks is that it's really just to get attention. It's like we need to get attention, and it's somewhat inevitably when I do these things, the sort of it causes the legacy media to like kind of lose their minds, and then they'll run it on every news channel. And I'm like, I couldn't pay them it would cost like 10 times more, or, to get the kind of coverage that we get.
The state Supreme Court there in Wisconsin voted not to uphold the state's attorney general's appeal to block Mr. Musk from handing out those checks. Well, the clock is ticking on the president's proposed 25% tariffs on imported cars and car parts. So that the tariffs kick into effect this week. Repair shops and dealerships worry that prices will go up. Some owners say supply chain distributions are just part of the problem. The tariffs will cause prices for repairs to go up, and many dealerships wonder why the president is actually enforcing the tariffs.
For us to affect the change that the president seems to be wanting, it takes, a minimum of 4 to 5 years and $4 to $6 billion to build a manufacturing plant in the United States. So, these things they won't be done during President Trump's administration.
Dealers are watching to see how the tariffs will ultimately impact prices.
The Houthi rebels claim that they have hit the E-2 command and control aircraft of USS Harry S. Truman aircraft carrier. And it also claims that Truman lost its command capabilities following that attack. Let's get you more details about this. The Houthi claim, if true, could result in a big headache for the U.S. operations in the Red Sea. The E-2 Hawkeye is the Navy's all-weather carrier-based tactical battle management, AWACS aircraft. And AWACS essentially means Airborne Early Warning and Control System. The E-2 Hawkeye provides early warning for the Carrier Strike Group and Joint Force Commander. Now, the primary function of the E-2 Hawkeye is airborne battle management and command and control functions, as the name suggests, and the E-2 uses computerized radar and electronic surveillance sensors to provide threat analysis against potentially hostile air and surface targets. Now, the Hawkeye can coordinate concurrent missions that may arise during a single flight. including airborne strike, land force support and rescue operations. Now, this aircraft was designed and developed during the late 1950s by the Grumman Aircraft Company, which is now known as Northrop Grumman Aerospace Corp. The aircraft is 17.5 meters with a height of 5.6 meters. Its wingspan spreads to 28 meters, while its maximum takeoff weight is as high as 23,850 kilograms. It can achieve an airspeed of over 300 plus knots and reach up to heights of 30,000 feet, which is somewhere over 9,100 meters. Now, as per the Houthi sources, this E-2 aircraft, it was targeted during an attack on USS Harry Truman CVN-75 aircraft carrier group in the Red Sea, which the Houthis have been repeatedly targeting. And this happened, of course, in the Red Sea. USS Harry Truman is an 8th Nimitz-class aircraft carrier. The aircraft carrier is named after the 33rd U.S. President, Harry S. Truman, and it entered West Asia in December of last year to join in the efforts against the Houthi rebels, who are based in Yemen, backed by Iran. Since then, it has been playing a key role in operations in the Red Sea and has come under repeated attack from the Houthis.
Let's now shift our focus to what's happening between Israel and Turkey. Well, a lot is going on, with the two sides exchanging accusations over a series of posts on social media. With the latest flashpoint being Israel's airstrike in Beirut's Dahiyeh district, a Hezbollah stronghold. You see, Tel Aviv claimed the attack was a direct response to rocket fire from Lebanon, marking the first such incident since the November ceasefire. Turkey condemned the strike. On X, the country's foreign ministry denounced Israel for breaching the ceasefire and accused it of endangering regional stability. Turkey called Israel's actions a blatant violation of international law and urged the global community to stand against what it described as Tel Aviv's relentless aggression. How exactly has Israel reacted? All this prompted a swift response from Israel. The country's foreign minister hit back at Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, saying he was not just a danger to West Asia, but to the people of Turkey as well. With Israel's foreign ministry on X further accusing Erdogan of preaching morality to the world, while simultaneously crushing dissent at home, drawing a sharp contrast between the two countries, stating that while Tel Aviv acts to protect its people from real threats, Turkey suppresses its own citizens, adding that Israel will continue its defensive operations, and Ankara fired back. Its foreign ministry labeled Israel's accusations as outrageous, baseless, disrespectful. Turkey accused Israel of attempting to deflect attention from the alleged crimes of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his administration. And Israel's foreign ministry challenged Turkey's reaction, questioning, asking why Erdogan's government was, in their words, so bothered. Once again, referring to Erdogan as, quote-unquote, a dictator and mocking the idea that he wasn't obsessed with Israel or harboring anti-Semitic views. Further highlighting Erdogan's actions in Syria, even within Turkey, further stating, I'm quoting here, Erdogan's true face had now been exposed, quote-unquote. Also, just look at the timing of it all. This war of words coming as both countries grapple with massive protests. In Turkey, tens of thousands have taken to the streets, facing tear gas, pepper spray, mass arrests after the jailing of Istanbul's mayor. And in Israel, demonstrators are rallying against Netanyahu's efforts to fire key government officials and demanding the release of hostages held in Gaza. As both governments struggle with internal turmoil, the question still is, what do these developments mean overall? And are we looking at a serious escalation? Is there more to this than meets the eye?
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has announced a plan to upgrade the U.S. military command in Japan. Hegseth said Japan is an indispensable partner to the United States in combating Chinese aggression. Japan's defense minister says the U.S. and Japan have agreed to accelerate plans to jointly develop and produce missiles to help ease a shortage of munitions. They've also agreed to speed up the process involving the maintenance of U.S. warships and warplanes in Japan to strengthen and complement Japanese and U.S. defense industries.
Just yesterday, we told you on WION that the United States delivered the first F-16 fighter aircraft to Taiwan, marking the first of the 66 fighter jets that will be supplied to Taiwan by the United States. And on the back of this development, the United States appears to be shifting its military focus solely towards China. A secret Pentagon memo reveals that the U.S. military is being realigned to counter a potential Chinese invasion of Taiwan, while reducing its presence in other global hotspots. According to reports, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has ordered a strategic overhaul, emphasizing deterrence against Beijing, while scaling back U.S. deployment elsewhere. The classified document, known as the Interim National Defense Strategic Guidance, was reportedly circulated within the U.S. Department of Defense early this month. Signed by Hegseth himself, the memo reportedly lays out an aggressive approach to securing America's interests, highlighting U.S. President Donald Trump's vision of prioritizing national security against China above all else. The Trump administration and the Biden administration both identified China as the top threat to U.S. national security. But this latest guidance goes a step further, identifying the defense of Taiwan as the central scenario around which all military planning must revolve. The document reportedly states, and I'm quoting here, China is the sole pacing threat, quote unquote. The memo categorically shifts American military priorities towards the Indo-Pacific region, further outlining a plan designed specifically around a potential war with China. It involves bolstering troop presence through submarines, bombers, unmanned vessels, specialized military units. The plan also prioritizes weapons capable of striking hardened or underground targets and improving the security of U.S. bases in the Indo-Pacific. Additionally, it states that the Pentagon is working to pre-position military supplies and streamline logistics to ensure rapid response capabilities in the event of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan. Pete Hegseth recently toured the Indo-Pacific region, meeting with American troops in Guam, stressing that they are on the front lines of this emerging conflict with China.
Allies in this neighborhood see the encroachment of communist China with very different intentions. And again, we hope to have a peaceful relationship with them. But we also stand with our allies to defend against that encroachment and defend American interests.
Meanwhile, the memo also places pressure on Taipei to increase its defense spending to as much as 10% of its GDP to national security. And by the way, Taiwan has taken steps towards increasing its spending. Its president recently announced an increase in defense spending to over 3% of the GDP, up from around 2.5% as part of a broader military overhaul. And China responded swiftly, dispatching fighter jets and warships near Taiwan. The memo is clearly a major shift in the U.S. defense strategy. The country's focus is no longer on balancing threats across multiple regions. It's now squarely on Beijing. As tensions rise, one question remains. Is the U.S. preparing for an inevitable war with China?
Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has warned of a forceful response if Iran is attacked, following a threat by U.S. President Donald Trump. Trump has demanded a new nuclear deal with Iran, saying the country would be attacked in the absence of one. Of course, if they do an evil act, we don't think it's very likely that they do anything wicked from outside. But if they do, they will definitely receive a firm reciprocal blow.
شرارتی انجام بگیره قطعاً ضربه متقابل محکم خواهند خورد.
During Trump's first term, the U.S. unilaterally exited a nuclear agreement signed in 2015 and reinstated sanctions on Tehran, leading to the deal's collapse.
به ایشان اقتدا خواهیم کرد.
We are Anchor. Stay tuned for updated real news.
Hello, Anchor Daily News viewers. Today we bring you a shocking event that feels like it was pulled straight from the scenes of a high-stakes spy thriller. Russian President Vladimir Putin's limousine has exploded. Yes, you heard that right. An accident of this magnitude happening in one of the most heavily guarded areas of the Kremlin has sent shockwaves not only through Russia, but also across the entire world. Was this just an accident, or was it an assassination attempt on Putin? More importantly, could this be a sign of growing tensions within the Kremlin and the rising discontent against Putin? Today we'll dive deep into this mystery and uncover the details behind this event. But first, as always, a quick reminder. We, the Anchor Daily News team, are 100% real. Neither me nor any of my colleagues are artificial intelligence. As advanced as AI may be, it's still not as good as us. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our daily reports. We read all your comments, so keep sharing your thoughts with us. Now, let's get into the details. On one of Moscow's most secure roads, as the state convoy was moving forward, an unexpected explosion occurred. According to initial reports, Putin's armored limousine was not directly hit and was quickly escorted to safety. However, some sources claim that the vehicle suffered significant damage and that Putin narrowly escaped unharmed. As usual, the Kremlin is avoiding making any clear statements. How could such an explosion happen in a heavily guarded convoy? The vehicles used by the Russian leader are equipped with the most advanced defense technologies. Yet, this incident reveals a significant vulnerability in Putin's security network. The exact source of the explosion remains unclear. Was it orchestrated by someone on the inside, or was it a sophisticated external attack? One thing is certain, Putin is no longer safe. As speculation grows that this could be an assassination attempt, links to Ukraine have immediately surfaced. Particularly concerning are the comments made by Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky shortly before the incident. Zelensky suggested that an assassination attempt on Putin could be imminent, hinting that certain groups within Russia itself might want to remove him. These remarks have only fueled suspicions that Ukraine could be involved in the attack. Could it be a coincidence that this explosion occurred just as Ukraine had been ramping up its attacks on Russian soil? In recent months, Ukrainian drones and special sabotage teams have struck strategic targets inside Russia, including Kursk, Belgorod, and even Moscow. Was this the next phase in their offensive, an attempt to target Putin himself? While the Kremlin remains tight-lipped about the true nature of the incident, the reactions within Russia have been significant. State-controlled media have downplayed the explosion, calling it a minor accident. However, independent Russian journalists and some sources claim that the situation is far more serious than what the government is admitting. If this was indeed an assassination attempt, it means Putin's security network has been thoroughly compromised. However, this incident may not be solely linked to external forces. It's well known that a power struggle has been brewing among Russian elites for some time. There is a deepening divide between hardline war supporters and those who see the conflict as a dead end. Putin is under immense pressure to continue the war, but some high-ranking officials believe that the war is destroying Russia's future. Could this explosion be part of an internal Kremlin power struggle? Since 2022, Putin has been appearing in public less frequently. Some sources suggest that he is facing serious health issues and that his grip on power is weakening. Rumors have even circulated that Putin occasionally uses body doubles to make public appearances. If that's true, then could it be possible that the intended target was not Putin himself, but one of his stand-ins? Meanwhile, the Russian public's patience is running thin. Economic hardships, military failures, and heavy battlefield casualties have significantly eroded support for Putin. In recent months, protests have erupted across Russia. People have taken to the streets in Moscow, St. Petersburg, and other major cities. Young Russians are protesting against forced conscription, while families of soldiers are openly voicing their anger at the Kremlin. Could this explosion further fuel public outrage? Putin, who's already facing security concerns, may now realize that he is not even safe in his own country. If this was indeed an internal assassination attempt, it would signal a major fracture in both public and elite support for him. The reaction from the West is also crucial. Intelligence agencies in the US and Europe are closely monitoring the details of this incident. If Putin's security is compromised, Russia's internal stability could be at risk. If the Kremlin blames Ukraine for the explosion, could this escalate the war even further? What happens next? Will Putin respond with a crackdown, or will he attempt to cover up the security breach? Could this event push the war with Ukraine to even more dangerous levels? Or is this a sign that Putin is becoming increasingly isolated even from his own people? We'll see the answers to these questions in the coming days, but one thing is certain: Putin is no longer as powerful as he once was. If explosions can occur in places where he feels safest, then there is a major fracture within the Kremlin. Who do you think is behind this incident? Is Ukraine responsible, or is it an internal Kremlin conspiracy? Or have the Russian people finally decided that they want to be rid of Putin? Share your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one and value your opinions. The truth always comes to light, and we, the Anchor Daily News team, will continue to bring you the fastest and most accurate updates. See you in the next broadcast.